Riga, 1902. Ships lined the harbor. Small clusters of Jewish immigrants waited to board these ships. And in front of one gangway, a tall Jewish peasant argued with a Russian guard. Niet, niet, the guard said. His daughter and his young son and his wife with two babies in each hand stood just a few feet behind him. Mama, Papa, what did the guard say? What's happening? The guard said, the little ones, they both have the fever. They can't go on the ship to America. Rose, you're 12 years old. You and David, you'll go to America all alone on the ship. You'll go.
For a long time, I've been involved with storytelling. For a period of time, I was head of the Jewish Storytelling Coalition in the Boston area. I selected Grandma Rose to do this story because she has a great history. She came to this country by herself, taking care of her younger brother. She eventually found work, eventually married. Grandma tells the story that she went to New York, met some family there, some friends, and her first job was as making artificial flowers. That's my story. But there's an alternate story, and I heard recently, and I'm willing to share that one also. It appears that my great-grandfather said, I'm going to go over to America, I'll get myself established, and then I'll bring you over, Hannah, and I'll bring the 4 kids over. We'll all be together again. Well, after a while, Hannah didn't hear from him, and she decided to see if she could find him and come to America. So she figured out that she would leave Sarah, the number 2 child, the second daughter, and David, the number 4 child, the youngest son, with family in Poland. And she took Rose and Frank and came to America. Now, whether she found my great-grandfather or not, I don't know. But eventually, she was sent for Sarah and David. They came over and the family was reunited. The main theme of Grandma Rose's life was she was a woman of strength, very independent, started out long before the independence movements that are going on today, had the 3 boys, my dad and the 2 uncles.
Chicago, 1926. Come on, boys, get up. It's time to get up. Let's go. Up, up. Albert, Joseph, Willie, out of bed. Let's go. Oh, it's not even daylight out. Oh, it's 5:30 in the morning. I know what time it is. Papa's been down in the deli for a half hour already getting food ready. Mama. Yes, Albert? Mama, why do I have to wear Willie and Joseph's hand-me-downs? Can't I have my own clothing like the other kids in school? Albert, don't worry so much about clothing. At least you have food to eat. And then she quickly walked into the deli. The smell of fried onions and kippers was already in the air. She went right up to the cash register to start taking money from the first customers early in the morning. And then she started making sandwiches for the boys. Now, boys, here are your lunches. I've made you turkey sandwiches on black bread with raisins. Yes, Mama. The boys took their sandwiches, grabbed their books, and started slowly out the door on their way to school.
When you follow her life story, you get to the point where she is a companion to this woman in Chicago, Mrs. Crown, a part of the Crown family, the real estate people. And she ran the entire top floor where she was the companion. She would control who got on the floor. I tell the story of one time this young fellow came on the floor and he wanted to see Mrs. Crown, or he had a package for her. And Grandma said, you know, your shirt's not tucked in, and you can't come on the floor until your shirt is tucked in. So the kid tucked his shirt in and he was able to get on the floor. They eventually, after they lived in Chicago for a while, moved back to New York. My dad went to high school in New York and eventually on to college in New York. My grandmother and grandfather were still together at that time, and they owned, I think it was 3 bar and grill, candy store type places.
Hey, Rose, not a bad bar and grill you got here. It's not so bad. No, Rose, it's one of the nicest ones in Harlem. I've never seen one like this before. Hey, Rose, how come a good-looking woman like you is in a bar and grill business? You know, how come? Well, 1929, there was the Depression, no one had any money. We knew a little bit about food, so we got a restaurant. And then, Prohibition ended, so we got a little bar in here. It's been good to us. But Rose, how come you opened up down here in Harlem? With the war in Ethiopia and everything. They're talking about race riots. Blacks against whites. I've never had any problems. And anyway, if I have a problem, Rose reached underneath the counter. I have a little persuader here. She brought out her big baseball bat. Well, Rose's baseball bat, her persuader, kept the peace for a few months. But after the windows had been broken 3 times, and all the furniture had been demolished, the business was closed.
And that's where documented story seems to fall apart. It was somewhere after that, and somewhere maybe around 1940, 1941. I was born in 41. But somewhere around there is when my grandmother and grandfather separated. The thing that I admire the most about my grandmother is that she exhibited a lot of strength. She always was involved with our activities. She always had an opinion about our activities. We lived on the 2nd floor. She eventually moved into the 3rd floor of this apartment building we were in. And there was a park right outside. You could see it from our window. And Grandma would be down there reading the forwards. She always was reading about Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt was her mentor. She would often then translate and bring me over and sit me down and tell me stories about that. She would go to Florida with this woman that she was a companion to. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. We'd all go down to Florida also. And I would have a sunburn from being out in the sun too much. And instead of just putting Noxzema on my whole back, she would paint palm trees on my back.
New York City, 1956. Ma, can we eat supper yet? Not yet, Steve. Grandma has to come down. Grandma went in, sat down at the dinner table, and we all started eating. But Grandma eats so fast, and she was done before all of us. And as soon as she finished, she cleared the table. But I protected my plate. I wanted to finish eating.
When Grandma finished eating, you finished eating. I used to have to protect my plate to make sure that that I could finish eating.
New York City, 1971. My wife and I were waiting downstairs in the nursing home to find out what floor Grandma was on.
Towards the end of her life, when she was late into her late 90s, she was in a nursing home. She controlled that floor also.
We hadn't visited yet. Grandma had only been there for about 3 weeks. We weren't quite sure how she was going to react to losing all her independence and her control. As the elevator went up to the 5th floor, I was really nervous. My heart was pounding as the doors opened. And I walked out up to the nurse's station to find out what room my grandmother was in. Grandma, what are you doing at the nurse's station? Somebody's got to answer the telephone. Somebody's got to tell people what to do. Yeah, Grandma, I guess you're right. Goldie, look, it's my grandson, Stevie. He came all the way from... Stevie, where did you come from? I came from Boston, Grandma, Boston. He came all the way from Boston just to visit me. Now, Grandma turns to the nursing aide at the station. Now listen, I know you're new on the job, but listen, if I get a call, I'm in room 506. If anyone else gets a call, what you do is you find out what room it is and you transfer it over to their room. You got that? And also, if anyone comes up and asks for us, make sure you know who they are before you let them on the phone. Everything? Yes, Mrs. Rosenthal, thank you very much. Grandma and I walked down to her room. And we walked in the room and her bed was neatly made up, but there were a few forvices, so Grandma moved them over to give us a place to sit. And we sat down and we started talking. Steve, yes, Grandma? Steve, you'll come and visit me often in my new home? Sure, Grandma, we'll come and visit you lots of times in your new home. Ah, that's good. Come, give me a kiss. And I leaned over, and Grandma gave me one of her mule kisses.
The piece that I remember most about that visit, and it was towards the end of her life, was that when Grandma started her journey to America, she had all her belongings in one suitcase, one bag. And when I visited her that last time in the nursing home, and we were sitting in the room, and she opened her pocketbook, and in her pocketbook, once again, she had all the belongings in her life. And Grandma collected napkins, never wanted to waste one, so they were folded up and put into her bag. She had a couple of paper cups in there, her toothbrush, everything she had that meant something to her was always right there next to her.
New Jersey, 1991. Oseh Shalom Livramam, Kuyaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, Dimru, Amen. The rabbi was finishing the service. The hot summer sun giving way to a chilled rain. I was glad I could get tears in my eyes. I looked around the gravesite. And I saw all the friends and families that had come together. There weren't many contemporaries, they had all passed away. My Uncle Joe wasn't there anymore. Grandma had outlived one of her sons. My dad and my mom were there. My Uncle Al and his wife were there. He was wearing his own clothing. He didn't have to wear hand-me-downs anymore.